reason why somebody with sustainability mindset and wanting more sustainability, why should they go with the solutions that you offer? What would one thing be? Maybe Frank first.
You're falling out a little bit, but I think you ask one word of why they should invest in us for in the word of sustainability. But it's higher productivity, producing. Yeah, that's more than one word, but producing more for less.
Yeah. All right, good. And how about you, Jesper? What would you say? Doesn't have to be one word, but just in short, sustainability. Why choose a solution like vertical farming?
For two reasons. I think sustainability, at least in my head, when I think about it in regards to vertical farming, is not only on environmental sustainability. A vertical farm can be built in Manila and produce salads for the local market without any negative consequence to the environment, as long as we use a renewable energy source, which is not always available, but if it is, we don't have any negative environmental impact to the environment and no pollution. But I think the other more important aspect, and hence our company name YesHealth, we actually see vertical farming as a way to kind of reintroduce health into our food production, meaning that we have sacrificed. Maybe it's the same for pig production, but at least for the categories that I'm familiar with, fruits, vegetables, we have sacrificed quality and safety for volume and accessibility. Everything should be accessible any time in volume, and then we have kind of sold the quality on that. And we would like to use vertical farming to reintroduce salads that are high in nutrient content, fresh, tasty, grown locally, and then free of any kind of pesticides that would pollute our bodies. So I think of sustainability only both in the sense of environmental sustainability, but also focusing again on the quality of food instead of growing it far away in places in high volumes, and sacrificing the quality in the same time.
Excellent. Frank, would you have something a little bit more perspective to add, or is it okay if we move on to the next question?
No, but of course, I would say, as Jesper say, that in terms of the health, I mean, we have seen for many years back in the 90s, it was abandoned in Denmark to use growth promoters and all that. But the whole thing about adding chemicals, medicine, hormones in our food has been, it still is a high topic in the rest of the world outside Europe. I would say Asia, still in the States, they use a lot of things to put in to grow in a cheaper way, and you compromise your health with that. I mean, and we know we can do so much better production for less without needing to add all these things into the things. So
thank you. I would like to expand on it before I take some questions from the audience. So you're talking about quality, right? Do you see a higher quality for products produced using your solutions, right? Do you see a demand for that some places in the world? And do you foresee that demand will also arise here in the Philippines? Maybe Frank first.
Yeah. Now, if you go around in Manila, you can go in some restaurants and they will say free-range chicken and hormone-free pigs and pesticide-free potatoes. So it's not in the same level as it is in Denmark. Ecological production, free range, and all that is a high topic. But it's also coming more and more in around the world that at least those who have money, they go and seek something is free of pesticides and so on. So, I mean, you still have a lot of poor people around the world, and they don't focus on that. They just care about how to get something to eat. But it is moving forward and forward. And we see in China also the big farms being built already now, that they are doing loose sows for farrowing and so on. It's of course a way for the big companies to brand themselves, to get a higher margin for the products by saying our meat is produced with loose sow systems. It's low medicine and so on. So it is coming more and more, but it's not a high topic yet. I mean, still a lot of poor people who just don't have money to buy meat yet. So it's a moving trend.
The main sales parameter for you is still the productivity increase, I guess.
It is productivity and the payback time, and you produce more. But I mean, yes, you would. I think you asked also, with our products, will they, yes, they can get a lower medicine consumption because we have some things developed the way we do things in Denmark. But it's still up to the farmer to, I mean, they can still use the medicine and hormones, but it's up to the local government to put legislation against using it, or the consumers have to demand not using it. But yeah, they will get a lower medicine consumption by using our products. But so it's so far it's more higher productivity that they will get.
Thank you, Frank. And Jesper, your perspective on this?
Yeah, so in terms,
go ahead.
yeah, in terms of quality, I would argue that there's definitely an aspect of higher quality from using a vertical farm in the right way. So first of all, it's important to understand that we also do not use any gene modified seeds or anything. We're actually not doing anything that couldn't have been done outside. We're just growing a plant in the most optimal condition, growing that plant to its full natural ability by providing them optimal conditions year round. And then I think importantly, because when we grow just outside of Copenhagen and we deliver to the supermarket, we're there basically the next day. So harvest, we're on the shelf the next day. And then if you take the competing product, it's harvested in Italy. It actually, because it's grown using pesticide, it typically takes a round or two of washing, packing, then it's being driven up on trucks, and then it reaches a distribution center in Denmark and then out to the retail store. So we're easily on day 4 or day 5 before the product reaches the shelf. And in this kind of fast, easy perishable category, then that is a big quality difference, whether you get it the next day or 5 days later. And it also ties back to this whole sustainability aspect, because in this category, ranging from leafy greens to fruits, and again, depending on the countries and the time of year, we easily talk about 20, 30, sometimes up to 40% wastage in this supply chain, meaning that 30% of what was grown and harvested was never consumed by the consumer. So it's lost somewhere throughout the supply chain, and vertical farming changes that dramatically. So I think there is a quality aspect as well to consider for vertical farming.
Thank you. If anybody has questions from the audience, yes.
Yeah. Hi. Hi. Good afternoon. I'm Ben. When the company is very excited, the company that I'm paying is validity, and it has to be owned by 100% Nordic, Dennis Nicholson. He's the chairman of the board. When our company actually focuses on pioneering on vanilla production, it's the first in the Philippines. And my question for the two panelists is, first off, in our laboratory, because we're using tissue cultured vanilla for expansion here in the country, we're technically using so much electricity. And when you look at the carbon footprint, at one point, it really is a very big balance between having a sustainable operation vis-a-vis using all of these resources. So on vertical farming, like how do you address carbon footprint? So that's number one. And for Frank, my question is, since we're roaming around and really promoting vanilla, particularly to the province of Batangas, most of the clients we're talking to are hog raisers. And they're very afraid as of this time, because in the Philippines, ASF is very prevalent. And we want to learn from you is how did Denmark do it? How did Denmark protect itself from ASF? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Jesper, would you mind going first?
Yes, so I get the question is on the carbon footprint of vertical farming. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, so this is what I touched on briefly. This is sort of the Achilles heel, I would say, of vertical farming, is that no one in this industry can straight out say that vertical farming by definition is more sustainable or has a lower carbon footprint than a traditional farm operation. It's really case by case. And if you build a vertical farm, of course, there's some carbon footprint to the materials of building the farm and so on. But 99% of the carbon footprint comes from your energy source, given that you use so much energy. So I am not confident to say if you build a vertical farm and use 100% fossil fuel source to power your farm, then that is not necessarily more sustainable than having a traditional vertical farm. But I can tell you that in Denmark, we have done studies with Denmark's Technical University on the difference between using wind power supplied by the Danish provider Ørsted, which was otherwise available on the grid, compared to trucking up thousands of trucks from, in best case, Holland, the Netherlands, and in worst case from southern Spain. Then vertical farming has an advantageous carbon footprint compared to the traditional supply setup. But that is all due to the fact that we use close to 100% of all our electricity from renewable energy source. So I think vertical farming does only have this sort of claim to fame when it actually applies an energy that has a renewable aspect to it. Just to wrap up, we're building in Saudi Arabia at the moment, and there we're using solar energy. I know we have plans to build in the future in Norway. There we're using hydro energy. So it could come in various shapes and forms. The main thing is that vertical farming should be linked with renewables to really have this, I would say, good carbon footprint.
Thank you, Jesper. And I just want to add a comment that it might not be known by everybody, right? But here in the Philippines, you can also choose, right, to source your electricity sustainable from renewable energy with the ERC. So there is some opportunities in it. It's not like in Denmark where half of the time it's much cheaper, but still there is opportunities to get sustainable energy. All right, Frank, do you have some comments on the ASF and how to avoid it?
Yeah, of course I do. I'll say one thing in Denmark, what we do to try to not get it into the country, because our farms is different than is what is the best, because I mean it's a private owned farms. It's like a family running the farm, and they live on the farm, nearby the farm, and we have always had a high health status in Denmark, so we don't have huge amount of diseases. So we don't have that strict biosecurity as we implement in all the projects we supply around the world. But as a country, we have put up 70 kilometers of fence down to the German border to try to keep the wild boars out. We are controlling by the government all trucks because, as I say, we export 90% of the meat. We export 14 million piglets south of the German border, south of the Danish border every year. So we have a huge amount of trucks driving back with, driving out with live animals and coming back. But we have washing facilities and disinfection facilities at the border. So all trucks will be cleaned and disinfected before they come into the country again. So some of those things we do a lot to maintain our health status. And also we do have a lot of foreign workers from Ukraine, Romania, and so on in the Danish farms. But also, I mean, the farm managers in Denmark are really good to educate them and make sure that they don't go around in the home country coming in with any kind of meat from infected animals. So, I mean, we educate our employees a lot to make sure that all this traffic in and out is being controlled. And in terms of what to avoid it in the Philippine market, as I say, it's the whole thing about biosecurity, making sure that you invest in a farm that has the right standard of biosecurity, educate the workers. And I have been around a lot in Asia and coming and promote some things. And the first thing you say, oh, we don't need this technology. We have cheap labor. But it's the worst argument to say you have cheap labor, because cheap labor is equal to non-educated employees. They will give you low productivity. They will give you higher risk of contaminating the farm. It's not. I mean, it's not even if in pig farm. Also, I would assume vertical farming, whatever kind of production you have, cheap labor is, for me, the worst argument to hear, because it's much better to have fewer workers that is educated well, and you treat them well, and you keep them for a long time, so you have, invest in your employees. That's so much better, and you have a higher biosecurity in terms of pig farming by having fewer people that is high educated. So higher biosecurity is, and then it's still possible to have a pig production in Philippines, even you have ASF moving around in the country.
Just a follow-up question on it. So you're talking about fences, you're talking about different way of ensuring that it doesn't enter the facilities, and that's part of the solutions that you provide.
Yeah.
So, but you also mentioned that a lot of the pig farming is backyard farming. So is that, I mean, is the ASF, from your point of view, more risky related to here because of the backyard farming? Not to point finger at them, but just to highlight, actual challenges.
But yes, there is a higher risk of having backyard farms. I mean, I understand the Philippines. It's people cannot. I mean, one guy, he have one pig, and then he get small piglets, and he sell them, and then he can send the children in school. That's the way it is in Philippines. But backyard farming is a huge risk for the commercial farming, because the backyard farms cannot produce enough for the whole country. You need those bigger farms to feed the people. But backyard farm is so uncontrolled that they will be having a high risk of contaminating the other farms. Yes.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Yes, there's lots of questions. Darren? Oh, yes.
Yes, a comment on backyard. My family runs 7 separate backyard farms in North. That's in northern Mindanao. And I don't think it's the backyard farm. It's educating backyard farm. Because 𝐕𝐞𝐫𝐭𝐢𝐜𝐚𝐥 is ASF free. because backyard farmers are educated and informed that you should not feed your pigs with your excess food, home food, like you're buying. You have to feed them with the feeds from your supplier. So it's about education, and it's not. It depends on your local, provincial, departmental application.
Very valid point. I
Yes.
think. Very good perspective.
Because backyard farming can be organic farming. That
Yes.
is the way to go. The quality meat for that locally used locally. So that is how we do sustainability. You raise your farm, you raise your pigs, and you eat your pigs. It's just really education. It's yes, there are uncontrolled here and there, but it's really about the program for the Department of Agriculture.
I think it's a very valid point that the education
Yes.
and it's individually from place to place how well things are enforced
Yes, we do
and
have
how well people are trained.
free-range pig already in our place. There is one grower that makes like a forest trees, and they just can't allow the pigs to roam around. So if there's free-range chicken, we are starting to do free-range pigs in Movicon.
That's very promising.
Yeah, it's really the education.
There's two more questions. Darren first. And then
So this is for Frank with ACO Funki A. Frank, I can see the designs and the engineering that go in to your main structures, to your large-scale production structures. Do you also have some method or a solution for methane capture and circular economies or reuse for energy production and lowering that carbon footprint because of the amount of methane?
question. Frank, did you hear that question?
I think I heard most of it. If we have equipment in the design that what we call use less energy and lower the carbon footprint, was that correct?
No, not really. It was capturing the biogas.
Capturing the methane, right? Methane capture. And then is there any circular economy to reuse that methane and lower the carbon footprint?
But yeah, we in our Danish Pig Academy, we have a partner who supply biogas plants. Biogas. There's also locals, but who do it. What we also promote in the package, if the client needs it, is of course biogas system, which the energy that produce you can reuse in the farm. Not the gas itself, but we will have a gas generator who produce energy, and then we use that for the power for running the fans and all the electricity in the farm.
Okay, thank you. I think this is the last question. Answer.
Hi, thank you. My name is Hans and I represent a Danish engineering consulting company called YesHealth. We work across the world in sustainable development, much in agriculture, in the developing and emerging economies and countries, and then all the way through to process engineering solutions for food and beverage plants and facilities and such. Thank you for organizing this event. Thanks for the very good presentations to both presenters. I was interested in the vertical farming presentation and with all the benefits that clearly has. It seems that the main obstacle is providing the energy source for that from a sustainability perspective, which cuts across, of course. And I was wondering, it was interesting to hear how, what I understood, you've been able to double your productivity inputs outputs in less than 10 years. If just where I understood correctly, I think that's very encouraging. And then it's about solving maybe this energy issue. So and you mentioned you're now developing farms in Norway and Middle East, solar and hydro. So I guess I was wondering what the chances of there's possibilities are of off-grid autonomous production facilities for vertical farming, and if you have calculations on that and optimal sizes or conditions. Yeah.
It's a good question, and regarding this autonomous grid or kind of microgrid, I get the question is related to that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have such thoughts, and obviously a vertical farm would work beautifully in such a grid, and you could think of a vertical farm with all types of microgrids around it. So obviously an energy supply source would be one of them, but in Denmark, for instance, we also have we are blessed to have quite a few of the main companies such as Apple, Google, place some of their data storage units in Denmark. They're also taking advantage of the renewable energy there, and they those data centers produce a lot of excessive heat that they just let into the air basically. And a vertical farming in a cold place like Denmark or even beyond could actually benefit from taking some of that heat over and use in our farm, because we want to create an environment between 20 to 25, 26 degrees inside the farm, and sometimes the temperature outside drops to -10, -15 even for Sweden and Norway. Such microgrids are forming. So for instance, in the Baltic area where we're building right now, we had an opportunity to build around a grid where there was a bioenergy production where they use wooden pellets collected from the forest. They burn them and create energy. It's not as sustainable as wind generated power, but nevertheless it's not bad. And there they have an energy production, and then they have a charging system, and so they have battery stations for the municipality's electrical bus system, and that only needs energy in a certain point in time, which it gets from the energy facility. And then the time that the energy is not needed for those batteries, then the vertical farm could take the energy, and then there could be this kind of synergy between the different activities. The reason why we haven't actually built in such a economy yet is because, as I said, we're struggling just to demonstrate the profitability of the farm itself. And then these more advanced models where you actually place a vertical farm in a sustainable loop with other activities, for us is still a little bit into the future. But definitely a vertical farm should be placed in close to another activity from which it could benefit, so that energy or heat, or even we use CO2 to enrich the air to a much higher concentration than is outdoor. And there's a lot of industrial production in Denmark which has waste CO2 that we could then use in our vertical farm. So we definitely have these thoughts, but we haven't actually built it yet.